Welcome to Michael's Sleep Well channel, the podcast where we listen, we relax, and we get sleepy. On the morning her grandmother died, Clara Reeves received a letter written in brittle parchment sealed with black wax. She found it sitting alone on her kitchen table, although she never heard anyone knock and hadn't seen a mailman. It bore no stamp, no return address, only her name in looping cursive. Inside, the letter read, "Dearest Clara, if you're reading this, then I am gone. Do not weep for me. I lived longer than most should, and now it is your time to uncover the truth. I leave you the orchard. Do not eat the fruit. Do not trust the mirror. And whatever you do, do not stay past the 12th chime. Grandmother Elira." Clara stared at the paper, half expecting it to burst into flames or vanish into mist. The handwriting was undeniably her grandmother's, full of elegant swirls and pressure-heavy lines. Her grandmother, Elira Thorne, had always been a strange woman, eccentric, secretive, fond of old clocks and whispering to trees. Clara hadn't seen her in 10 years. Still, the loss struck her with a heavy quietness. As a child, Clara spent summers at Elira's estate, a looming house nestled at the edge of a vast orchard where no birds sang and no flowers grew. She remembered the crooked fences, the silvery mist that never lifted, and fruit so perfect it looked carved from glass. That was the glass orchard. She had never dared eat from it, not after Elira warned her that the fruit was only beautiful to the doomed. Now the house and the orchard belonged to her. 3 days later, Clara drove the winding roads north, deeper into the green-blanketed hills of Arbor County. The sky turned pale and cloudy. Her phone lost signal half an hour before she reached the Thorne estate. The manor rose from the mist like a forgotten monument, its black spires and weather-worn stone intimidating as ever. The gates creaked as she pushed them open, and she swore she heard something sigh as she entered. Inside, the house was as she remembered. Antique furniture covered in white cloths, grandfather clocks ticking in every room, walls crowded with faded portraits whose eyes followed her. Her footsteps echoed like whispers. Clara explored slowly, taking it all in. Her grandmother had kept everything. The rooms were untouched, suspended in time. A chill hung in the air that had nothing to do with the temperature. In the sitting room, she found another letter on a side table. "The orchard blooms at dusk. Don't forget your reflection isn't always yours. Wind the clocks, but never the one in the attic." Clara folded the letter, unsettled. Was this a game? A series of riddles from a dying woman? She made her way to the rear of the house and opened the tall French doors that led to the orchard. There it was, the glass orchard. It stretched out before her in eerie symmetry, row after row of trees bearing shimmering, crystal-like fruit. Apples, pears, plums, even pomegranates, their skins gleaming like blown glass. The air smelled of something sweet and sharp. The trees didn't move, not even a rustle. No wind touched them. Clara walked the edge of the orchard, careful not to cross the narrow threshold where grass turned into silver-mossed earth. The silence pressed on her like weight. Even her footsteps seemed too loud. She remembered being told, as a child, that the orchard was older than the house. that it had been there long before her family settled on this land. Some trees, Elira had said, bore fruit that could heal or curse or let you see the future. Clara never believed it. But now, standing before it, as the sun sank low and the shadows thickened between the trees, she wasn't so sure. She turned back to the house, just in time to see someone watching her from the second-floor window. A pale face, a pair of eyes, dark and wide. Then gone. Clara rushed inside. She checked every room upstairs. Nothing, no footprints, no signs of anyone. And yet something had shifted. The air felt wrong. The ticking of the clocks grew louder, more urgent, as if marking down something besides time. That night, she found it hard to sleep. And just before midnight, the house whispered her name. The next morning, Clara awoke to the sound of chimes. The old grandfather clock in the hallway was striking 12, even though the sun streamed clearly through the windows. Noon, not midnight. She sat up, confused, and checked her phone. No signal, no time. The screen was black. Clara climbed out of bed and stepped into the hallway. The chimes still echoed faintly, as if the house itself were ringing. She followed the sound. At the end of the corridor was a narrow stairwell leading to the attic. The air grew colder as she climbed, and with each step, the house grew quieter. The ticking of clocks below was gone. Even her breath seemed to hush itself. The attic door was slightly open. Clara pushed it gently and stepped inside. It was dark, except for one beam of light from a circular window. The air smelled of cedar and dust. Forgotten trunks and covered furniture created jagged shapes in the shadows. And in the center of the room stood an old clock, massive, ornate, and still. Its face was cracked, its pendulum unmoving. It had no hands. A tag hung from it, fluttering slightly even though there was no wind. Do not wind. Clara felt drawn to it nonetheless. The carvings on its surface were strange. Trees, twisted figures, a sun split in half. She touched the cold wood and felt something throb beneath her fingers. A second later, her reflection flashed in the clock's glass. But it wasn't her. The woman looking back wore her face, but her eyes were silver, her smile too wide. She reached toward the glass from the other side. Clara stumbled back. The image vanished. She didn't stay to see if it returned. Back downstairs, the house had changed. The paintings on the walls looked subtly different. One portrait, previously of a man with a neutral expression, now showed him frowning. Another had eyes that followed her more intensely than before. She found herself in the study, a room lined with ancient books and dried herbs. A diary lay open on the desk, her grandmother's handwriting again. The orchard listens. I hear it speak when the wind stands still. The fruit shows you what you desire, but desire is a trap. The clock in the attic marks the hour of crossing. I wound it once and lost 3 days. I woke up speaking someone else's name. Beneath the entry, a leaf was pressed into the page, a glassy pear leaf. Clara touched it and felt heat pulse through her finger like a heartbeat. She slammed the diary shut. That night, she stayed out of the attic. Instead, she sat by the fire, trying to read, though her eyes kept drifting to the window. The orchard was still visible through the mist. The fruit glimmered faintly even in the dark, glowing softly like stars. At 11:30, a knock came at the front door. 3 slow raps. Clara froze. She waited. Another 3 knocks. She moved toward the door, heart pounding. "Who's there?" she asked. Silence. She gripped the handle and opened it. No one. Only the mist. She stepped out onto the porch and saw them. Footprints, bare, wet, leading from the orchard to her doorstep. Clara followed them with her eyes. They stopped just before the threshold, as if someone had walked out of the trees and stood there, watching. She looked toward the orchard again. Between the trees, something moved. A flicker of silver, a shape too tall, a whisper of cloth. Then it was gone. The wind finally stirred. And this time, it whispered something new. It's not her name, but a warning. She is waking. Clara didn't sleep. She sat by the fire until dawn, trying to pretend she hadn't seen the footprints, trying not to think of the whisper. She is waking. Who? Her grandmother, the orchard, the girl in the attic glass. As the first light crept over the hills, Clara crept into the master bedroom, her grandmother's room. It smelled of lavender and smoke. The windows overlooked the orchard, and the bed was neatly made, untouched. A long, full-length mirror stood in the corner. Clara walked toward it, heart thudding. Her reflection looked back, normal, tired, pale, but her. She turned away. The reflection didn't. Clara froze. Her reflection, her face, was still watching her from the mirror. A second later, it smiled. She backed away slowly. The mirror cracked. Determined to find answers, Clara returned to the library. She searched until she found a dusty box labeled Estate Records, Prior Inhabitants. Inside were deeds, maps, and old letters, dating back more than 200 years. One name kept appearing, the Glass Orchard, and before her family came to own it, it belonged to a woman named Isolde Weil. Isolde had been a known herbalist. The village believed she was a witch. Clara found a journal entry from 1832. The orchard sings when no one listens. Isolde speaks to it, says it bears the burden of memory, that no soul buried beneath it is truly gone. Buried. Clara ran back outside. The orchard stretched before her, serene, silent, but she noticed something she hadn't before. Some of the trees had markings at their base, weathered carvings, almost like names. She knelt at one. The bark read, Elena, 1901. Another, Bram, 1876. There were dozens. Clara's breath caught. These trees weren't just trees. They were grave. She needed to know the truth. Despite her fear, she stepped into the orchard. As her boots crossed the mossy border, the air thickened. Time bent. Her ears filled with silence so complete it rang. She approached one of the trees, the one with her grandmother's name etched at the base. A low-hanging apple glimmered red and silver. She reached out, drawn to it. Don't eat the fruit. But curiosity burned too bright. Clara picked the apple and took a bite. Everything went dark. She awoke in the orchard, but it wasn't hers. Children laughed in the distance. The trees were smaller. The manor was pristine. And walking among the rows, she saw her grandmother, young, beautiful, speaking to another girl. Madeline. Clara tried to move, but she was only a presence, an echo. The vision shifted. Now her grandmother was older, arguing with someone, herself, and behind them the orchard pulsed like a heartbeat. She saw herself reflected in every fruit. She had become memory. She dropped the apple, and the vision ended. Shaken, Clara returned to the house. Her lips still tingled from the fruit. She ran to the library and flipped back through the journals. A passage she'd missed before caught her eye. Elira had a sister, but none must know. The orchard chose only one. The other was returned. Clara blinked. Her grandmother had a twin. She flipped through the family tree. No mention, only Elira. She ran to the mirror. Who are you? Clara whispered to her reflection. It smiled again and spoke. I am Elira, the one who was buried. The mirror shattered. Clara finally understood. The orchard was a prison, a vault of memory. Her grandmother had sealed her twin away inside it, trapped between life and death. The attic clock had marked the boundary. And now that boundary was weakening. Clara climbed back to the attic. The clock had changed. Its face was whole. Its hands pointed to 11:30. And it ticked. Only one rule remained. Do not stay past the 12th chime. But what happened if she did? Clara stood before the clock. 11:45. A whisper coiled in her ear. Wind it. As she reached for the key, she turned the key. The house groaned. The orchard lit with unnatural glow. Fruit shimmered, trees swayed. And the door in the attic swung open. Not a room, a portal. Beyond it, the orchard stretched endlessly, skyless, colorless, a mirrored world. And standing just beyond the threshold was the girl from the mirror, Elira's sister. Her eyes were hollow. Come with me, she said. Trade places, as Elira once did. No, Clara said. You've waited long enough. It's time to end this. She slammed the clock door shut. The girl screamed. The orchard howled. And Clara fell. When she woke, she was back in the orchard. But all the trees were glass. Every fruit held a face. Hers. Her grandmother, S. Isolde, S. Thousands of them. She walked, touching nothing. A voice followed her, soft, sorrowful. I didn't mean to trap her, Elira whispered. But the orchard needs a soul. It always needs one. Clara reached the heart of the orchard, an altar of stone beneath a twisted tree. And there, a fruit waited. The last one, Clara lifted it. "I choose to break the circle," she said. She crushed it in her hand. The orchard began to crumble. Trees cracked. Fruit shattered. Faces screamed and vanished. Clara ran. Back through the rows. Back through the mist. Back to the house, which now trembled like a beast in pain. She reached the attic as the final chimes struck. The mirror exploded. The clock split. And the portal closed. Darkness. Then quiet.